Welcome to your weekly program, Balahdan, a show with an accent for those without one. Thanks God the election is over, and now we're going to have the Donald is our 45th president. And actually last week we have a party to celebrate or grieve the winning of the Donald, and we actually have ducks. It was a wonderful evening, and we enjoyed that. We have Trump supporters, and we have Clinton supporters, and we have independent, and we have people that didn't give care, did not vote. So it was a lovely evening, and it was as real as America itself. Now we go back to the business of pipeline access in North Dakota and and Iowa. Now this pipeline that's gone through 5 states and it's built near the Mississippi, which is not supposed to be. I think by the law there is no digging in the rivers, or it has to be staying about 25 feet from the river, and a lot of things happening, and the mainstream media was busy with covering personality and identity politics, and we didn't know much was going on in the last few weeks, debates or so. But we have here somebody who actually went to North Dakota and covered the event and actually got arrested. We have here Jen Schreiter, and she is an independent journalist with Unicorn Riot, and located here in Minneapolis, in Minnesota. Welcome to Balahdan, Jen, one more time.
Thank you very much.
I'm always, as an independent journalist myself, or independent media, our show is also an independent media. See how hard it is for those independent media to actually cover a big story like North Dakota. So tell us a little bit, as you work with the Unicorn Riot, and you've been there. Tell us a little bit about the logistic and how you get there, where you stay, and how did you get arrested?
Well, I have been 3 times to North Dakota, which is where the Standing Rock Reservation is, where these huge encampments, the Ochetisacoan encampment, has been for a while. There's been resistance there since at least April of 2016 of this year to the pipeline being constructed by Dakota Access. The pipeline stretches from North Dakota also down into Iowa, where there's also recently been resistance by the name of Mississippi Stand encampment to the same pipeline. There they were more strongly and more intentionally resisting the boring underneath the Mississippi River, which I had heard is completed now. And then in North Dakota, of course, they're resisting the same pipeline that's going to go across the Missouri River, which ends up dumping itself also into the Mississippi River.
Yeah. I think this is the first time, the conflict between natives and the federal government and businesses, it's been going on for, let's say, 100, 200 years.
Hundreds of years.
Yeah. So, but this particular conflict got a lot of attention all over not just the United States, all over the world. And this is probably the first time that many native tribes or Native Americans actually got together and resist that. So when you go there, what do you see? What are the camps? Who is there? Who goes there, and what do you guys do? How you spend your day? You wake up in the morning, and then what?
Woke up very early in the morning before the sunrise this last week that I was there. Now, this last time that I went back and the second time that I was there in September, there's this huge encampment. It's on both sides of the Cannonball River. On one side is the reservation, where there's what's called the Rosebud Camp. And then the other side is land that is being protected by the Army Corps of Engineers, upon which the big camp is, the Ochetisacoan Big Camp. And you drive in, there's a checkpoint right at the beginning where there are indigenous people serving as security. They kind of check in on you. Hey, have you been here before? Are you returning? Is it your first time? They check in to make sure you're not intoxicated or anything too.
I see.
And then you drive in, there's flags as you drive in, waving from all these different nations. There's dozens and dozens of flags.
Representing the nation, or the flags of the nation. So everybody
Yes.
knows they are there.
Yes.
Okay. And so there are programs, or the people tell you what to do. I mean, as a journalist, of course, you're free to cover the event, but the people themselves, they're like, here is what we're going to do today.
It's interesting. At the very entrance of the camp, you'll pass by through those flags, like I mentioned, and on the right-hand side is this kitchen, and there's this tent with a free library with jackets if you need one, and there's a PA there that's on, I think, all of the time, and people can get up and say why they're there and share about why they are resisting the pipeline and emphasize the importance of water. This is the struggle. Water is life, is what keeps getting chanted.
You see this a lot.
Yes.
Water is life, science, and everything. And then, you know, this is a class of culture. Like, it's not just the politics and safety and corporate America try to just force themselves through our environment and our water and whatever. But it seems like there is a clash of set of beliefs between what the company is driven by profiteering, and here is the Native Americans, which they don't have that much resources. Also, it's not about their just piece of land, sacred land, but also about their way of life and how they look at environment and how they look at water. So it's not just protecting water for the natives, it's protecting water for everybody.
It's protecting water for everybody, for people that live downstream, for people that don't have the money to buy bottled water when the pipeline breaks and pollutes the entire river, because it is not a question of if it's going to break. As you were saying earlier, these things break all of the time, so it's a question of when. So it's not only protecting the water for themselves and everyone downriver, but also for future generations. And then also, as this company is coming through and building, they are destroying sacred sites with no regard. Sometimes it seems as though it's almost intentional that these places are being destroyed.
They didn't settle well for a lot of people, even non-natives. A lot of people, other natives, actually joining in. Why this is appealing to a lot of non-natives Americans? You can see a lot of people like you and like a lot of people actually going there and standing with them, and usually they are alone doing their things, but this really opened it up for a lot of people. They saw that there is unfairness and there is there is injustice going on there. What's about that particular project or that particular conflict that trigger all of this? When we there is always a conflict between the natives, and there's some things issue about fishing, issue about casinos, but it seems like that pipeline project, an AXA project, really expose a lot of injustice and a lot of issue this country is facing, and that's why you find a lot of people, non-natives, going and joining us that protest. Am I correct? When you go there, they're all natives, or you see other people too?
There are many indigenous folks from many different tribes, and there's also people that are not native. There's people that are white. There's people that are of different ethnicities there as well. There is resistance to this project in general. It had been proposed that it go just north of Bismarck, which is a very large city in North Dakota. But there was a lot of noise made there about, oh my gosh, what would happen if the pipeline would break? It would contaminate all this water. So then the pipeline was moved south of Bismarck. So now that's going to be free from such pollution, and it wouldn't impact right there so many people. But as I was saying before too, there's all those folks downriver too that have to be considered.
I don't know what Obama stand on this. I know he suggested that we should just wait and do some more research and review and make sure this is really going, doing the right. But in no way that he actually took a stand against it, that it's going to be stopped. So, but anyway, there was an intention to slow it down and do some research and some review from the government agencies. But now Obama won't be with us in a month or so. How Trump's winning the election and is going to be the next president going to affect this project and this stand?
Well, it's interesting to me that this project is so far along in the stages of construction where it doesn't seem as though the proper research has been done in the first place. How did so much of it get built without those sort of concerns being properly addressed? And
they were saying that the company ignored some of this report from the Justice Department, from the Interior Department. So the company thought they can get away with this. If it wasn't for this resistance or this protest, we wouldn't have heard about it. We just hear about it if there is an accident or something. But the symbolism of what Trump stands for, isn't that discouraging to the resistance there, and or maybe it works the other way around, that now we have a villain that he really, is going to side with the rich and corporate against the native and voiceless, and that might galvanize a lot of people to actually stand with the natives and make sure this project will be under a lot of scrutiny from the media, from the activists. Do you think this might be a scenario here?
I had heard people saying that they hoped that President Obama would stop this construction of this pipeline. That clearly hasn't happened.
Yeah, and he's gone. He's going to be gone.
So, if he didn't stop it, if someone else comes into office who is even more sympathetic to the big company that is pushing this pipeline through, then people out there seem to be resisting the pipeline because it's the right thing to do and not waiting for someone else to.
Yeah.
Also at the same time, hoping that that's going to happen, asking their legislators to make noise so that does happen. But, direct action is taking place. People are out there putting their bodies on the line, stopping construction, delaying it for, even hours at a time, so it doesn't just continue forward with little to no attention from the media, with little to no efforts to stop it.
As an independent journalist, what do you want the American people know that the mainstream media are not telling us? What is missing out of this news coverage of this crisis?
Of this story in particular, the resistance to the pipeline, the voices from the people that are there who are going to be really directly affected, these voices aren't being heard. They are in opposition to the pipeline. There's a lot of really powerful, very wealthy forces in play, in control of corporate media, that they have their story in mind before it gets published. They know what they want to write. They know what needs to be published. They know what they're being told to say. So really listening to people who are there, who have a very personal stake in this, whose futures are on the line, who this is dearly, dearly important to, listening to those voices is really key, and finding sources that do represent folks like this and don't purport to speak for them. Listening to just people themselves, that's really key, and that's really missing from a lot of interactions.
When we see a dolphin drowning somewhere or a duck stranded in a net, the whole media outlet go and cover this, and saving the poor dolphin and they tell a story about this dolphin and his name and how many kids they have and all that. We don't hear that from the people who are affected by this project. We just people who are writing, and the police and dogs, and that's it.
Well, the story about a dolphin suffocating somewhere or, in pain, that's sad, but, and, that's not like it doesn't deserve coverage. However, that story is not threatening to the power structures. The resistance to this pipeline, direct resistance to a project being funded by very wealthy benefactors, that's important. Challenging that construction, challenging that process is really important, and I think is really threatening to the powers that be. So there's active suppression going on of those voices in particular. Also, it's easy to just give a voice to a dolphin whose language we can't speak.
Interesting. At first I was made aware of this, and I saw this armed cars and almost like tanks and militarized police and dogs and chasing this young and peaceful unarmed protesters. It was like I'm looking at the settler in occupied land in Israel, and they have the same, they have big cranks and big, the machinery and police and chasing those. So it seems like it's the same conflict between power and powerless, and that power structure, no matter where you look at it, it's always the same. The police protect the powerful and the rich, regardless of what system, democratic, what have you.
The motto of police is to protect and serve.
Yeah, that's
protecting
not
property and serving those who are at the top.
Yeah, property here is like you could shoot somebody trespassing and you get away with it, and you say, "Oh, it's my property." And somebody shoplifting a Twinkie can be shot at supermarket, and it's okay. People accept that. But Saudi Arabia can chop hands. I know it's horrible, of somebody stealing and confessing. Savage. They are horrible. This is Islam. So here we look at property is like our Sharia. This is our Ayatollah. We cannot touch our dogma, and will not allow other people even to. But anyway.
No, that's a really good point, though. Someone contacted Unicorn Riot through Facebook and was saying, "Oh my gosh, how can you call these protesters peaceful?" And then showed a picture of a police vehicle the air in the tires had been let out. That's not even property destruction. And even if there is damage to property, no human being is harmed. No human being has been harmed. So whatever your definition of
you can fix.
Yeah, you can fix property, but you can't repair the emotional and physical damage that's been done to a person.
Property in the capitalist system, this is the Sharia of the capital. You cannot touch it. You can be killed, transparent, if you ever. And but if someone else try to have like a different system, and even we are savage. I just want to end this, and I don't know. Probably you're familiar with the CEO of the Dakota Access Pipeline. I think Kelsey Warner, whatever. This guy is very cocky and very arrogant, and he was saying that you guys, those protesters are very naive. The project is gonna finish. Test or not protest. So even the attitude of the people in power toward those people, it's not even in question by the media, and find out how does such people disregard the interest and the life of thousands of people who live there and been affected.
It is in their interest to disregard those people. They have investors to answer to, and so I imagine the CEO has to be super confident in all portrayals of his opinion of what's going on, because his investors have to be reassured that this project is going to be finished on time.
Yeah, interesting. So we're going to be on the top of this. This is probably the third, fourth time we talk to people who actually went there, and I can't. Are you hopeful? What do you think is going to happen? In January. You have Trump is going to be in power, and he's going to show that He's the man for the people who elect him and finance him. So is there any strategy? Are you guys going to change the tactic, the strategy of resisting, of talking once Trump in office, or is just you're going to do what you're doing?
Well, the mission of the media collective of which I'm a part is to amplify the voices that might otherwise go unheard.
I see.
And I cannot imagine that changing at all once Trump gets elected. I mean, if anything,
good for your career.
If anything, like he and those, the alt-right are going to, and have already started to squash people who they disagree with just on the basis of them being a different gender or having a different sexuality or being from a different place, So there's going to be even more work to be done to continue to help those stories get told.
Well, thank you so much, Jen Schreiter. She is a journalist with Unicorn Rights, and she's covering North Dakota access pipeline that has been really pushed aside in the last few months because of the election, but it's there. People's life is on the line. Our water is on the line. So stay tuned. We'll cover this. We'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum, and God bless you all.